If there were still questioning Angel Reese or doubting her place in the conversation, this might be the moment where everything shifts. Because what's happening right now isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about perception, respect, and how athletes, especially in the WNBA, are allowed to exist beyond the court. Angel Reese has never tried to blend in. From her college days all the way into her professional career, she has carried herself with confidence, personality, and a willingness to stand out. That approach has made her one of the most talked about players in women's basketball, but it has also made her one of the most debated. Some people admire her for it. Others have criticized her from the very beginning. And the criticism hasn't just been about how she plays. A big part of the conversation around Angel Reese has always been about her image, the way she presents herself, the way she embraces fashion, the way she moves within celebrity culture. For some, that's seen as a strength. For others, it becomes a reason to question her focus on basketball. That narrative has followed her consistently. There are voices that suggest she's not fully locked in on the game, that basketball for her is just one part of a larger platform, that maybe her interests outside the court somehow take away from her commitment to the sport. And in a league like the WNBA, where expectations for athletes are often rigid, that kind of perception can stick. But here's the thing. That kind of thinking says more about the expectations placed on players than it does about Reese herself. Because the reality is, Angel Reese continues to perform. She continues to show up. She continues to handle pressure in a way that many players struggle with, and she does it while being under constant scrutiny. Now that conversation has reached a new level, because someone with a powerful voice has stepped in and made it clear where she stands. Michelle Obama. On her podcast, IMO, which she co-hosts with her brother Craig Robinson, Michelle Obama addressed the situation directly. And this wasn't a passing mention. This was a clear, public show of support for Angel Reese. When someone like Michelle Obama speaks, people listen, not just because of her influence, but because of the weight her words carry. She's not reacting to trends. She's speaking from experience, from understanding pressure, and from seeing how public narratives can shape how individuals are perceived. And what she did here was important. She didn't just focus on Reese as a player, she focused on Reese as a person, navigating a very complex environment. She pointed out the way Reese continues to handle attention, criticism, and expectations without losing her identity. That's not easy, especially at this stage of a career. For Reese, this wasn't just another interview or appearance. It was a moment where she felt understood in a different way. Because one of the challenges she has faced is the feeling that the narrative around her is often incomplete, that people focus on certain aspects of who she is while ignoring others, that the conversation sometimes becomes one-sided. And being in a space where that dynamic shifts matters. During the conversation, Reese acknowledged those challenges. She spoke about what it's like to deal with media attention that doesn't always capture the full picture. And she made it clear that having platforms where she can express herself openly makes a difference. That's something a lot of athletes can relate to, even if they don't always say it out loud. But what stood out the most wasn't just Reese sharing her experience, it was the way Michelle Obama responded to it. Because she didn't just offer support in a general sense, she took a clear position. She emphasized that Angel Reese deserves respect, that the constant criticism directed at her needs to be reconsidered, and she made it clear that the conversation around Reese has gone beyond fair analysis and into something that deserves to be challenged. That kind of statement carries weight. It shifts the tone. Because when someone at that level steps in and draws a line, it forces people to look at the situation differently. It doesn't mean the debate disappears, but it changes how that debate is framed. For Angel Reese, this moment represents something bigger than just support from a well-known figure. It represents validation. Not validation in terms of needing approval, but validation that her approach, her identity, and her way of navigating her career are being recognized for what they are. Because Reese has never tried to fit into a narrow definition of what an athlete should be. She's building something that includes basketball, but also goes beyond it. She's involved in fashion. She's present in spaces that connect sports with culture. She's expanding her reach in a way that reflects where the game is going. And that's not something that should be seen as a distraction. It's part of the evolution of the sport. The WNBA is growing. The visibility is increasing. The connection between players and fans is becoming more dynamic. And players like Angel Reese are at the center of that shift. They're not just athletes. They're personalities. They're voices. They're part of a broader conversation. But with that comes resistance. There are still expectations that players should stay within a certain box, that they should focus only on the game,
present themselves in a specific way, and avoid stepping outside of traditional boundaries. Reese has never been interested in that, and because of that, she's become a focal point. The criticism she receives isn't just about her. It reflects a larger conversation about how athletes, especially women in sports, are perceived when they choose to define themselves on their own terms. That's why Michelle Obama's support matters, because it reinforces the idea that there is more than one way to approach a career in sports, that success isn't limited to performance on the court alone, and that athletes should be able to explore different aspects of their identity without it being used against them. It also sends a message to those who continue to question Reese, a message that says this conversation needs to evolve. Angel Reese is not going to change who she is, that much is clear. Her personality, her presence, her ambitions outside basketball, those are all part of what make her unique, and they're not going anywhere. If anything, they're becoming more central to how she defines her career. And now, with support coming from one of the most influential voices in the world, that path feels even more solid. It doesn't mean the debate around her will disappear. It probably won't. Reese is the kind of player who will always be part of the conversation, both for what she does on the court and how she carries herself off it. But the difference now is that the conversation has shifted. There's a stronger recognition of what she represents, a deeper understanding of the pressure she's navigating, and a clear acknowledgement that her impact goes beyond basketball. For fans of the WNBA, this is something worth paying attention to, because the league is changing, the way players interact with the media is changing, the way stories are changing, and Angel Reese is right in the middle of that evolution. With her performance, her personality, and now with visible support from someone like Michelle Obama, it's becoming harder to reduce her to a single narrative. She's carving out her own space, and she's doing it on her own terms. The message is clear. She's not just part of the game. She's helping redefine it.